Well, it was great. Emily taught you how to do the Alleluia sign, but I was hoping that she would have taught you how to spell out supercalifragilistic. I can't even do it anymore. I've done it so many times. At least you were prepared this time. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. There we go. This has only been going on for since 1998. Now, what if somebody you knew came up to you and said, if you really love me, you'd do X, Y, and Z. The trouble is, X, Y, and Z was sinful. Is that what love is all about? You know, it's amazing how many people just they fall for this stuff. It's like they fall for these telemarketers. You know, we throw that word around in such a way that we don't even know what it means. Like I had pizza for lunch. I love pizza. And then I wrote a little letter to Father Fitz this morning. And he reminded me in his letter to me that he had introduced me to the game of golf. So I said, well, yeah, I really love golf. And I love the song that they sang before Mass. I recall that when I had the funeral for Father Norm Parr at St. Peter and Paul, that Mary Claire and Kim came down there and sang that in tribute to Father Parr. I love that song. Oh, wait a minute. Can you really? What is it anyway? What is real love? I mean, I love pizza, and I love music, and I love hobbies, and I love my spouse. Oh, oops. I think we just jumped into another category, didn't we? When I was here for 12 years, I had 352 weddings. And I gave every couple about a minimum of 6 instructions. So I multiplied that out, and it's over 2,100 instructions, or 2,100 hours of instruction. And you know, when you deal with people that much, you kind of pick some things up, don't you? Because here's these people that say they love each other. And I'd sit there and I'd say, do they really? Well, I think a lot did. Some fell apart. Some of those marriages fell apart right away. But a lot of them, I still run into them today. They come up, and I'm at various parishes, and they come up and say, do you remember us? You know, you had our wedding. And 352 of you. There's a couple out at Elkhorn, and they had an 8th grader either this year or last year. I get confused. And I said, was that your youngest graduating from 8th grade? No, they said, no. I said, was that your oldest? They said, no, that was our youngest. They had kids in college already. They had their wedding here. So, in order to kind of prepare them, I wanted to make sure that they understood what real committed love was all about. And so I'd ask them this certain question. And this certain question came from a parishioner here. This parishioner, who's no longer a parishioner, but I've run into him at hospitals and things. He told me when he got cancer that he was so thankful that it was him and not his wife and children. And a little light bulb went on in my head. Wow. His wife and kids are way more important to him than his own life. was saying, I think there's a grain of truth in here about what real love is all about. So I'd ask him that question. If one of the two of you were to get cancer, who would want it? That kind of took him. But I had some very strong responses saying, yes, me. I'll let it be me. I knew that they had fantastic, deep love for each other. Now, there's one other thing that I remember about every couple, even though I didn't remember their names, don't even remember having their weddings. There was one other thing I remembered about every single one of them, and that was the wedding homily. And that's because I gave the same homily at every wedding, with a slight variation. And so if I had your wedding, let's see if you remember it. And if you're a wedding coordinator, you certainly do. I'd pull out a crucifix, and I'd use this in my homily. And it'd been great if I could have given every couple a crucifix. Father Potts did. Father Potts, he was in Elgin. I was in Petersburg. And he gave every couple a beautiful crucifix at their wedding. Well, I figured that out, $70 times 352, and it came out to about $24,000, so that's the reason they didn't do it. But this became a fantastic image for them to think about what married love should be about. And let's step back and say, any love. I mean, if any of us say that we love, you don't have to be married. This is it. Because when you look at this, you see that love is sacrificial. So, I love pizza. It's not sacrificial, I tell you. And Jesus suffered and died. Any love has to be sacrificial if it's real. Because the other has to be more important. For the sake of the other, I give up whatever. It's not about selfishness, it's about selflessness. And Jesus' love is unconditional. See, real love to the depth, where your giving of self is not 50%, 60%, 70%. Jesus gave 100%. Real love is 100%. Well, I love that song. Yeah, it's not this. And love is forgiving. That's why Jesus is on the cross. Real love isn't about evening the score. A lot of people think, well, if I really love them, I'll make sure that they suffer as much as I do. I did. This is all about being saved. Love is redemptive. Jesus suffered and died that we might be saved. Now, we don't save another person, but when you give self completely and totally for the sake of another, you're helping them accept what Jesus did. And I always loved it when couples chose 1 Corinthians for one of their readings. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, love is not pompous, love is not inflated, it's not rude, it doesn't seek its own interests, it's not quick-tempered, it doesn't brood over injuries, it does not rejoice over wrongdoing, it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Now, in that description, you don't see anything about selfishness. Every one of those qualities is selflessness. Now, you might be saying, gee, Father, that was really great about going down memory lane and remembering all those weddings you had. But what's it got to do with Trinity Sunday? What's it got to do with the great mystery of God? Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God. Well, this homily that I have in here, that's version number 2. Version number 1 was all written out, and then I looked at it and I said, they're going to be snoozing after about the first minute. Because it was way too theological. It was way too abstract. Too much in the head. Not enough life experience in it. And then I thought, who am I to explain God to people? That would be like this morning. There was this little creepy bug on the kitchen floor this morning, and that would be like that bug explaining me. Who am I? We can know very little. We can know some basics. And the reason we know some basics is that God has revealed the basics to us. We wouldn't know God unless God let us know. You look at Jesus. Now there's the revelation. You look at the Gospels. You look at how Jesus lived. How he dealt with other people. And you find mercy, compassion, forgiveness, his love. Say, well, what does that have to do with me? That's how we're supposed to live. St. John in his gospel said, God is love. That's about it. That's the very essence and core of who God is. That's the essence and core of Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's the essence of how God is with us and how we should be to God and how we should be to each other. You will say, gee, I'm supposed to love? What does that mean? I've just spent my entire homily telling you. It's really pretty simple. In fact, the lesson that you can take home is really pretty simple. We're supposed to live like Jesus. Say, gee, how do you do that? Well, just look at the crucifix. And you got it. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.